Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, my dear students. I hope you are doing well and you are ready for the current session. In the current session, I am going to introduce you to the vocabulary of Old English. Well, as far as the nature of the vocabulary of Old English is, it was strikingly different from the vocabulary of English that we use nowadays. Also, the formation of words and the ways the words were created and modified was quite different. So I hope that after completing the session, you would be able to understand and you would be familiar not only with the vocabulary of Old English, but also its nature and how it was different from the English of today. The first important feature that I would like to talk about the vocabulary of Old English is that the main source that Old English used to enlarge its vocabulary was its own resources. So, yes, it borrowed, yes, it took words from other languages, but mainly it relied upon the sources or the resources that it had itself. And by changing, modifying, and giving different forms and shapes to the words that it already had, more words were created. From Proto-Indian, Indo-European, the Germanic languages had inherited many ways of forming new words, especially by the use of prefixes and suffixes. And we would notice the Old English used this formula. So, adjectives, for example, could be formed from nouns. So the first example that I am giving is of adjectives that were formed from nouns, and how they were formed? They were formed by using suffixes. I hope you are clear about the terms affixes, prefixes, and suffixes. Affix is a term that is used for talking about any part that is added to, I'm saying in the layman's terms, any part that is added to the root word, either at the beginning or at the end, to give it a new form and a new shape. Now, prefixes, the word pre tells you before. Prefixes are those additions that are made before a root, whereas suffixes are those additions that are made at the end of a word. To make it clear, I would give you an example. For example, if the word is dominant, by adding predominant. So this is the use of a prefix. Alright, take the word speech, adding something at the end of it, for example, less. When you add it, speechless. So this is the use of a suffix. So this was just to refresh your memory. We come back to the point how in Old English adjectives could be formed from nouns by using these suffixes. So if you look at the screen, you would find two examples of the suffixes that I have encircled here. The first example is of this suffix that was used, eas, and the second is of full. Notice the examples that are given here. The modern English word bloody. Notice how it was formed. Second English word in the modern language, friendless. This one, please notice how it was used, friendless. And this one you can see, thankful, modern English, how it is used in Old English. The process was vice versa as well, and it was possible for nouns to be made from adjectives. Here I have an example for you. Proto-Germanic suffix, again I am encircling this for you, please notice this. This is the prehistoric Old English eta. This could be added to adjectives to form abstract nouns. On the stem of the adjective, so again notice at the bottom of the slide, this foul, which means dirty, it was formed through the same process. Similar formations have led to such modern English pairs as merry and mirth. If you notice from this word merry, how mirth was made. From slow, sloth was made. From strong, strength was made. And from true, truth was made. There were so many other possibilities of adding to the vocabulary, and adverbs from adjectives could be made by means of suffixes, such as the two that I have encircled here for your convenience. So from the adjective, for example, again look at the slide, fast was formed faste. Like we in modern English have firm and firmly. And from, again notice, the word blind, that was changed to, modified to blindless, that is modern English blindly. Many prefixes could be added to verbs. So all the examples that I have given so far were of suffixes, the parts that are added at the end of a root word to make further words. Now I am moving towards prefixes, the parts that can be added before a root word to make more words. For example, notice this prefix. It is the example of a common verbal prefix which often has a perfective force. I will give you an example to make it clear to you. Please look at your screen and you would find these two words here. Let me explain these words to you. If you notice the first one, this one, sekaran means to cut. This was the old word, old English word for modern English word cut. But if you see this prefix, gesekaran. Gesekaran means to cut right through. So when some action is completed, done perfectively. So by adding this prefix, this is how words were made in Old English. I would also give you another example of these two words in Old English. By the way, this is in modern English, to ride. Raidan. Raidan, this one is Old English for to ride. And by adding this GE, this prefix, the meaning changes to ride up to, or to conquer, or to occupy. Old English formed new words by compounding as well. The difference is that an affix is a bound morpheme, whereas a compound word is formed by the joining of two or more free morphemes. So here are some examples that you can look at. Literature, arithmetics, grammar, astronomy. Now look at these four modern words in comparison with their Old English equivalents. The first one, bowcraft, remcraft, staffcraft, and tungolcraft. What did all these mean? Bookcraft meant book skill, remcraft meant number skill, starcraft meant letter skill, and tungolcraft meant star skill. So this is how compounds could be created in Old English. So I hope you would be clear that English language used, apart from borrowing, most of the times its own resources, that is its own words, to make new words, to create new vocabulary, mainly either through the processes of using prefixes or suffixes or through the processes of compounding.